In this video, we're going to be taking a look on pages Access 68 and 69, in which we're going to insert an image. Now, after watching this video, you should be able to insert an image on a form, modify form sections, and print a selected record. Now, graphic images such as pictures, logos, or clip art can add style and professionalism to a form. The form section in which you place the image is significant. Form sections determine where controls are displayed and printed, and they are described in Table C6, which is on the bottom of page 68, but we'll go a brief review over that here in just a moment. Of course, for example, if we would add a company logo to the form header section, the image appears at the top of the form in the form view, as well as the top of the printout. If you add the same image to the details section, it will print out next to each record in the printout because the details section is printed for every record. So real briefly, let's take a look at the three main sections. And in our design view, you can take a look at the three main sections that we have. First of all, we have our form header. Now, anything that you place in this form header is only going to be displayed once at the top of the first page of any printout that's on there. So anything that's in here, such as this case, this label of tours entry form, or here in a second we're going to place in a logo, that's only going to print once on the top page of our printouts. Of course, we're not going to print this out, but if we did print it out, it would print it out on the first page. Now in this section, this is our detail. And the detail is going to print out once for every single record. So however many records that we have, that is how many times the detail section is going to print out. So all of our labels and all of our text boxes and combo boxes and everything else is going to print out once for every single record that we have. So anything we put in there is going to print multiple times, once for every record. Now finally, and we don't have anything in this form, but we notice we have the form footer. And of course the form footer, anything that we place in there is going to print out once at the end of the last page of the printout. Let's go ahead now and take a look at the steps on page Access 68. And now in step 1, the first thing it tells us is that we want to click the form header section bar. Now these section bars are this gray bar that runs across the entire length of the screen, and here is the form header. When we click on that, notice that it is selected and it turns a darker color on there, in this case black. And when we click on that, we now want to go up and make sure our design tab has been selected, and it tells us that we want to click the insert image button in the controls group. Now of course we do have all of our controls here, but there is a button here that's just to the right of this list of controls here, which says insert image. Now when you click on this, notice that there is a browse button. Now yours will probably not have this QST logo because I've used this previously when I was testing this out, but you will have a browse button. Now this is the image that we're going to be looking for, is this Quest logo. Now you will need to download that from course sites for the walkthrough assignment. So you'll need to download that and either place it into your downloads or your documents, or in my case, I'm going to have it in on my desktop. So wherever you save it at, just know where you have downloaded this image at. So what we want to do is that we want to click on Browse. And when we click on Browse, we want to go to the location of where our file is saved. Now, like I said, now typically if you may have saved that to your downloads, so you might want to click on this folder that says Downloads. If it's not there, typically it may be in the Documents folder. It's wherever you saved your file at. However, with me, I saved this in on my desktop. And when I clicked on my desktop, I'll scroll down until I see where it says Quest logo. Now I had to download this previously from course sites. So once again, you'll have to download your image from course sites. Once you located your file that you have downloaded from course sites, you can move on to step 2. And on step 2, it tells us that we want to double click this Quest logo file, and which it is a BMP on there, which is an image file. Once we have that, we notice that our insertion point, or our cursor, is changed a little bit. It tells us then we want to click in the form header section at about the 3-inch mark. So here's a ruler across the top, and we want to go to about the 3-inch mark. somewhere in this area, and we want to click. Once we click, our image has now been inserted into the form header that's on there. And it's added to the right side of the form header. However, this is kind of a large image because it's about a 2" by 2" square image. We really need to resize this image down because it's kind of overpowering our title of our form. And to do that, we're going to take a look at step 3. And with step 3, it tells us that with the Quest logo image still selected, with it still selected and having this orange line still around it, if you're not for sure if it's selected or not, click on it again. With it still selected, it tells us that we want to use the resizing handle, which we can click on the lower left-hand corner on there, and we want to change this resizing on here. We want to drag the lower, I said lower left-hand, but it's the lower right-hand corner of the image. We want to drag this image up so the image is approximately 1 by 1. On there. So we want to drag this up to where it's at the 1" mark to the 4" mark, and then we can release our mouse button. So now this image is approximately 1 by 1 inches. But of course you'll now notice that we have all this extra space that's here. Now one thing to keep in mind as well is that any extra space here will print out. So to remove this extra space, what we have to do is that we have to drag the top edge of the detail section up using this mouse pointer. And we want to drag this up to just below our image. That way, so there's not a whole bunch of blank space that's here. It's a great way of saving paper, is not having a whole bunch of extra blank space. And you'll probably notice that that's why on here that really our image doesn't spread all the way across to the full paper length size, because it's only using as little information as it possibly can. Now when an image or control is selected in Design View, you can use sizing handles, which are the small squares at the corners of a selection box. Now you drag this handle to resize the image or the control. Now with the form completed, you can open it in Form View to observe the changes. So the first thing we want to do is we want to save it, because if we try to go out, it's going to ask us to save it anyway. So we're just going to go ahead and click on the Save button on the Quick Access toolbar, and then we're going to click on the Form View button. Once we do that, we now see that there is our QST logo that's on there. However, we're going to add one more record that's on here, and this is going to be with your final tours entry form that we're going to have. So we're going to add one more record here, and to do this we move on to step 5, in which we're going to click on the new blank record button, which is in the navigation bar at the bottom, and then we're going to enter the record shown on figure C16, which we'll do that here, and we're going to use your last name in the tour name field. So in this case, we'll hit our tab key to move down to the tour name field. And I'm going to put in my last name, which is Irwin Gathering. So you're going to have your last name, Gathering. And then we're going to have the tour start date of 10/1/2015. The duration is going to be 3. And of course, notice the tour end date automatically calculated for us, so that's good. And of course, notice the tour end date did not have the focus placed on it. It went straight down to the city. And our city is going to be Kansas City. The state abbreviation in this case is going to be Missouri, so it's going to be MO. And the category in this case is going to be family. So you can just type in the letter F and the family is going to be there. You can hit your tab key. The description is going to automatically update. And we're going to type in $300 as the price and hit our tab key. Once we have this information in, if you are wanting to print out this record, now we're not going to print this out, but this will show you how to print out a record. If you were wanting to print out this one individual record, you would go up to the File tab, and this will take you to the Backstage view, and then you would go to Print. And inside of this print, we would go ahead and click on Print Again. And this would bring up the print dialog box that is on there. Now, of course, in this case, if we would print all, this would print all 50 records. However, if you were wanting to print just an individual selected record, for example, this one, you could click on Selected Records, and then you can click on OK to print your record. However, we're not going to print this record, so we're going to click on Cancel to not print our record. Once you have that completed, you can go ahead and close your tour entry form. If you're prompted to save it, go ahead and say yes, you do want to save it, and then you can go ahead and close out of the Quest Travel C database, and then go ahead and make sure that you upload the Quest Travel C database to Course Sites. Finally, if you take a look on page Access 69, it talks a little bit about applying a background image. And of course, a background image is an image that fills the entire form or report, appearing behind the other controls. Now, of course, a background image is sometimes called a watermark image. And to add a background image, you would use the picture property for the form or report to browse for the image that you would want to use in the background. And of course, I would warn you on this to use that very sparingly, because sometimes, you may want to put your favorite image up there, your favorite musician, or whatever it is up there, but sometimes it can overpower the form and it's really hard to see. So make sure that you always keep the end user in mind when creating these forms, because ultimately the form is designed to make data entry easier than inputting it directly into the tables. And that concludes the series of videos about Access 2013 Unit C. You're ready to move on to the assignment, so make sure that you do upload your Quest Travel C to Course Sites, and you're ready to move on to the next assignments.